Fellas, it is that time. It's my favorite time of the year, bro. We are finally out of that weird space where I can't watch TV on weekends because I don't watch golf, right? I don't give a care if Scotty Scheffler has joined like the top 5 people of all time that's won 7 tournaments in 1 year. My daddy's at the house trying to tell me about birdies and eagles and putts and all that. I'm like, Pop, I don't know nothing about none of that.
Scheffler's special, though.
We've seen your swing, too. We've seen your swing.
That what you call this? That's called a swing?
I don't know what that was, but we saw it.
Well, first off, guys, I ain't got time to be golfing all the damn time.
That is true.
Be working.
You need time.
Too, I'm stiff as hell now. The other day, man, I was in the house and I tried to see if them hips could move like they used to when I was in high school, and I started creaking. I'm out of there, coach. I have aged out. I'm in the old man sexiness.
How you work your hips? Because I work my hips different.
I want to know, does your shimmy work? Can you shimmy?
I can still shimmy because that's all shoulders. It's not hips, like Chad said. But nah, man, I'm excited.
Hold up, limitless, take a stomach cap, pinning it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling, got me up. On the mission, got me up. Knowing me, I got the key. On the vision, I can trust. Limitless, take a stomach cap, pinning it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling, got me up. On the mission, got me up. Knowing me, I got the key. On the vision, I can trust. Limitless, take a stomach cap, pinning it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling, got me up.
Fellas, it's the football season. But when you think about the beginning of the season, it's the stupid part of the season where every fan thinks that their team's going to be good, where every team has lied to themselves throughout the entirety of camp, that they have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl. What are some of your favorite memories, or that one memory that sticks out in your head where you say, okay, this is what the beginning of a football season is about?
Man, it's funny you say that, RC, because we travel all the time. We talk to a lot of fan bases and be around a bunch of fans. There are 32 teams right now that really believe they can win the Super Bowl. Y'all know that number's about 6.
Yes.
Maybe 6. But the fan bases, the fandom is what fuels this game, and I love it. But you talk about the beginning of the season, and it's popped up in my head as soon as you said it. It was my first game in the league. 05, Denver, Jimmy Smith. Yeah, Smooth was there up in Denver. And it was my first game ever playing in the NFL. Starting at wheel linebacker, next to Zach, next to Jason, next to Junior, next to Vonnie, next to KC, Kevin Carter, all them boys, Mad Dog, Sam Madison out there. It's crazy that that was the game that started the peeing on yourself stuff. That everybody asked me about, the peeing on yourself during games. It was that game that started it because of the fact that that's when the Dolphins and the Marlins used to share a field. That's when the Marlins used to play early and we had the dirt on the field. And during that game, I went to the dugout to go pee because I used to take Red Line and Red Bull and drink all this BS and Vicodin and whatever else, Toradol, whatever else they give for the game. I just wanted to be ready to play ball. And I had to go pee. And I went down to the dugout, went pee. By the time I came back, I think Ronnie B. Black fumbled, somebody fumbled. We went back on defense, and I missed that series. And that's when I promised to myself, I'm never missing a series again. So if I got to pee, I'm going to pee right there on the sideline. Denver, they ended up going like 12-4 that year. They were good as hell, but we beat them in Miami. We beat the hell out of them like 34-10 because of the fact that it was 110 degrees and people can't play in Miami. So that September thing about playing in Miami early in the season is real, but also playing and having to miss a series made me start peeing on myself every game. Denver 05, go look it up. We beat the hell out of them now. Big Money was on it. Big Warren was there, so it was a bunch of guys I know, but my first game ever, I'll never forget it.
They went to the AFC Championship that year. They were a really good team.
Yes, 12-4, I believe, that year, yeah.
I'm like you, Chan. Going back to the opener for me, my first game ever, the reason I got into football was the 1985 Bears, watching Sweetness, watching Walter Payton.
Oh, so the next year you got to play against your idol.
No, but 13 years. It was actually 13 years later, as a matter of fact. 1998, I want to say it was like September.
Oh, man.
Seriously?
Fred, I'm laughing. That's
Seriously, bro?
My bad, bro. My bad.
Y'all need to stop picking on me, by the way. No, but going back to, it just felt so good to be able to open my NFL career in Chicago. at Soldier Field, a place that, I had enjoyed watching Walter run the ball, man. So it just brought back a lot of memories of me as a child watching Walter. And then to be able to get an opportunity to get I got 3 carries that game. But it felt good nevertheless to start my career there. But like you, RC, man, a lot of these fans are, fantasizing that their team is going to end up in New Orleans. Some have already booked their hotels or Airbnbs. Dallas Cowboy fans always read the cancellation policy because they're the ones that won't probably be there when it comes playoff time because they always experience first-round exit. But this season, I think, will be a special one. We get an opportunity to watch some amazing athletes go out there and do their things like they do every year. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to be able to be at home in my office. I close the door. Like you say, I throw on my YouTube TV. I got 4 games right here on the multi-screen that I can enjoy. So it's always dope, man.
Bro, we ain't never talked about this because Fred, we laugh about it. Fred drafted first round, know he's going to start. I'm drafted third round, know I'm going to start. How was your intro to the NFL?
I don't remember it. I do not remember where the New York Giants played their first game in 2002. I don't remember if I was up, if I was dressed out. I know halfway through that season they put me on practice squad. And when y'all were talking about your first games, I was legitimately trying to remember mine.
Wow.
And I don't. I think, you remember, I guess, momentous occasions. The big occasion for me that year was making the 53, right? But I was a special teamer. I wasn't going to play. I didn't play a huge role on defense at all in my first year, so I don't remember that. The game that sticks out to me was the 2006 season opener, Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Miami Dolphins. It was the first season opener I ever started. Because my last year in Washington, even though I was the starter, I got hurt in camp. So I missed the first 2 or 3 games of the season. The year before that, I didn't start until the 5th game of the season. So it was my first time as an NFL player being the starter on opening day. And you were there, you know what it was like. That's the year after they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. It's Thursday night, it's damn rockets everywhere and jets flying over the stadium, and it was almost like a college atmosphere. And I walk in there and they ain't even talking to me yet. Legitimately, it was hard for me to get conversation out of people at this point in the locker room. And so I win the job, right? Bill Cowher's the coach, right? Still chin. So me and TC, little pistol starter, that's what we used to call him. We fighting for the position, and they tell me when I win the position, nobody really took a hold of it. We're going to play Anthony Smith at some point, but you can start this season because we want to start with the veteran. So I already knew Kill Switch was going to play at some point. So now we playing the game. Ben has an appendectomy before the game starts. So now we got Charlie Batch. I didn't know that Charlie Batch was the greatest backup quarterback of all time. He's a damn Pittsburgh Steeler hero. That's the same game he throws the 87-yard bomb to Heath Miller.
I was out there.
Right? Heath Miller scores, but at this point, we in the huddle. We about to go on the field. We got to get a stop. Nobody care about me. They got Troy Polamalu, Casey Hampton, James Ferrier, Aaron Smith, foot dog, right? Yeah. And so now I'm like, okay, I just got to go out here and do my job. But I was balling the whole game. I'm smacking people, and TC sits next to me right before the last drive, and he looks at me and he goes, "You should be starting."
Wow.
That's the moment I remember from that game, because at that point in my life, I still had so many questions about whether or not I belonged. And he became my best friend on the team at that point, and we were fighting for the same position. We did everything together. And they gave him the same spiel they gave me. Somebody else is going to play eventually. And he said it. He's like, nah, man. He's like, you're supposed to be out there. And all I remember is Peasy, right? The meanest human I know. The only thing I knew about Joey Porter at that point very well was that he will throw hands on the field before a game and not care about the repercussions or consequences, because fighting and being respected was more important to him than anything in the world. Mm-hmm. He gets the pick, right? Hall of Fame coach Bill Cowher. To me, should be in the Hall of Fame Joey Porter. And he kisses him on the cheek after. Yeah. And to me, I was like, oh, it's different.
We kissing now.
In this place. In this place, the toughest men in the world kiss each other after picks. But that was my introduction into Pittsburgh. But it was truly the start of my career of having a home. And so that's why I don't really remember the other stuff.
Now, I just want to say what's going to be weird about this season's opener is no Bill Belichick on the sideline. We will see a lot of his face, though. He'll be on the Pat McAfee show and then on the inside with you. So that's a lot of knowledge that he'll be able to share the week after the games. So, man, he had been coaching since 1975.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And not to be on the sideline, it's just going to be kind of weird, man.
That's making me feel old. Nick Saban now, he's analyzing, making me feel old. Tom Brady, we talked about him recently, where the ownership of the Raiders and how much can he work and all that stuff. Tom's now an analyst. I'm surprised how good Belichick is. I watched y'all show a couple weeks, last week, man. I am so surprised because everybody thought Bill Belichick was post-game Bill. No, we're just not even play. Bro, Bill be wide open, man. I'm excited to watch Bill break down these games because I know he is a damn genius. Saban, those guys come from that same tree, man. But it's making me feel old with all these guys going to the analyst side and they ain't coaching or playing no more.
Fanatics Sportsbook's $5 million jersey drop. Jerseys are dropping every single day. Just log in daily for your chance to win. It's time to suit up for season opener. This is Fanatics Sportsbook, the most rewarding sportsbook.
I think we're definitely old. You look at this weekend, someone that we all have a relationship with, sort of, in the sense of our culture. My nephew, Ricky Pearsall, played for Florida as well. He was shot in a robbery attempt by a 17-year-old. And Fred, sends the news across. You're in Florida with your child, who, is young as well. When you see something like that, what are some of the messages or some of the things you think are important when people really try to dissect that situation?
Yeah, man, it hit me hard, man. And I was in Gainesville around all of Gator Nation. We was getting our heads beat off. And then you get the text, there's like, it's a bad day for Gator Nation. Thankfully, though, Ricky, he came out okay. Because you think for the worst, you hear someone get shot, that's one thing. Then you hear, well, he was shot in his chest. You're like, man, this is crazy. But again, thankfully, he's okay, man. A lot of people sent prayers up. My whole thing about it is we come into these new cities as rookies, not really used to our surroundings, and we still want to go out and just be a human being. And it's unfortunate that someone will make a play in your life over a material item. They see a Rolex and say, I want to get that. Then sometimes they see skin color and say, you know what, this is an easy play. He white, he got on a watch, I'm going to try him. So it's really bad how people sort of go about handling their business. But my message is to the younger guys, man, you're in these new cities, you got to keep your head on the swivel. Go out as a group, making sure that you know exactly where you are, how to look and see the leverage in those areas that you are, man. A lot of you guys got these homeboys and these homies, like, make sure they got their heads on the swivel. At least that's how it was for me down in Jacksonville. When I first got to Duval, it was known as the Bangum. It was one of the highest murder rates in the country. But again, I knew that going in, so I made sure that I didn't end up on certain sides of town. Try and mitigate, the possibility of being robbed or jacked or whatever you want to call it. So, man, just make sure you are familiar with your surroundings. Don't venture into certain areas, in those new cities where crime might be a high possibility. But in Ricky's case, he was just walking in a chill area, and in broad daylight, someone tried him. So, again, man, thank God that Ricky's okay. But young guys, man, just make sure you know where you are. Keep your head up.
Is it, because I'm almost asking for these young dudes, because I'm not a materialistic dude. Like, Jan, y'all got beautiful jewelry, and you got the little, I don't even know what them shits is called, the club breaks, and that shit's very expensive. But my whole thing is that, like, I tell people, what is jewelry attracting to you? To be honest, if you got a $100,000 chain on, that's going to attract, in my mind, this is my thought and why I never spend money on jewelry. It's going to attract gold diggers and dudes that want to rob you. Like those diamonds and jewelry and all, and I know it brings attention, but what attention is it bringing to you on the positive side? What is it like? A girl's gonna smile at you, but she's smiling at the diamond chain. She's not smiling at you. then now that's my whole thing, and that's why I'm not real big into jewelry, but y'all know I'm a country dude, but I think the negative attention of what jewelry and having $250,000, $500,000 worth of jewelry on, I don't know if the risk worth the reward, to be honest.
Just push back really quick on you, Chan. On jewelry, yeah, it's materialistic and one of those items that might increase, the possibility of people wanting to make a move on you. But, you have a nice vehicle. Your wife drives a nice vehicle. People plot on people, others leaving the grocery store because they're getting in a nice vehicle. They assume that you have something of value. Shit, they might just want the car itself so they can go drive it to the nearest chop shop, chop it up, put it in a container and send it overseas to the Dominican Republic. Trust me. So I know how they get down, especially in Miami. So it's not so much all about jewelry. It's just about the act, the people committing those acts and how they're feeling that particular day.
Yeah, I think my pushback on it is we're victim blaming, right? Mm-hmm. In the sense of it's, hey, you can't do these things because if you do these things, it attracts this level of evil. I think you got to talk about the evil. I think you have to talk about the way people move. And the situation with Ricky Pearsall and the person who attempted to rob him, it's also the people that are putting this young 17-year-old up to this. When you think about the gang violence and the gang-related crime in San Francisco and California, for the OG, they say, oh, if you want to be a part of this, if you want to be a part of this family, you have to go do this thing. You have to go steal, you have to go attack, you have to go shoot, you have to go kill, you have to go rob. Because if you do it, the messaging is, if you do it, because of the laws in California, you won't be punished as heavily as I will, and we all eat, right? Think of the cowardice of whatever person that is, who probably in his culture or wherever he is, in his place, in whatever organization it is seen as the OG. It's seen as the person who has paid his dues, so he gets to call the shots. But in calling the shots, you aren't concerned about the young man that you're sending out to do whatever it is, and you absolutely aren't concerned about Ricky Pearsall. Yeah. And to me, it draws more attention to the lack of concern for human life, right? Because you're willing to kill Ricky Pearsall, have him killed, have him harmed, have him shot over a watch. And you're also willing to sacrifice this young man who forever now, unless truly rehabilitated, he's going to see that as a way of life that's okay. And it's not. And the first thing I think of, and some people know this, some people don't, Ricky was my son's roommate at Arizona State. And Freddie T did mention, okay, he may look like an easy mark because of skin color or whatever. Nah, Ricky bout that, right? And I'm not saying that you were saying that he is, but I'm saying I get the right. Knowledge is
the rookie premier. When we sat down with him, he ain't no pushover.
Exactly, and so now Ricky's like, okay, how do I save my life? Which in a lot of times in those situations, because you just won't go, because you're not gonna be an easy mark, you put your life in more danger. But that's what we think, it's fight or flight. Yeah. And so now, I think her name's Joelle Harrell. She's the cop that gets to him, and he asks her, imagine that, am I going to die? Right? So for me, it's sitting at a game, watching my son, one of his closest friends is now shot. And the first thing I'm thinking is, what if that's my baby? Yeah. That could be Jordan. That could be Lil Chan. That could be KT, right? Yeah. That could be all of our children who are faced with this, because I want Jordan to get a job. I want Jordan to have money. I want Jordan to have the nicer things in life if he wants to, because he's worked for it. Because you've worked for something and now you have jewelry or now you have this, it doesn't mean that you have to be a mark. That's the society we live in, but it's all kind of people who work their entire life to have things.
But RC, I don't want to victim blame, but is the risk worth the reward? Like, I don't understand why I need to have a $100,000 chain on. You want people to look at you and know you're rich? Because my whole thing is, you can bring up the cars. Y'all know I drive an old big-ass black Suburban. Like, I'm not a flashy dude. I don't get the mentality.
But your wife drives a Tesla.
But I don't get the mentality of I need to show that I have money. Why you need to show you have money? Have money and be comfortable.
When you buy a Tesla, you tell people you have money. when you live where you live, you tell people you have money. Now, it may take away the immediate threat of being robbed or shot or accosted or assaulted because you don't have these diamonds on your neck. That may be true. But the other piece of it is you can't tell people not to go get those things if those people have earned those things. It's the same way when we look at, there's always the picture, you know, of whatever old white billionaire is wearing like New Balance, khakis, and a blue sports coat.
Sperry's.
Right?
The Sperry's,
yeah, he's wearing
the
that,
boat
but he
shoes.
got a mother effing jet and 10 security guards.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He got 17 houses. You know what I mean? And it's like when you grow up with nothing, right? When you grow up idolizing the people around you that have a little something, it's not like when I was growing up, the people who found money, whether it was dope boys, people who worked for it, whether it was athletes, the people who got money bought jets. So I didn't grow up in my life thinking I need a damn jet, right? They bought houses. So the first thing I did when I finally got a little money was I bought a house because I was like, oh my gosh, I got a 4x2. Like I'm rich.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I've made it. And then you look around, it was like, man, it would be so great to have a nice timepiece, right? Because when you're growing up, they don't call them watches. Like if you could get a Rollie, if you could get a Hublot, if you could get a Breitling or Audemars or whatever these watches that Jay-Z's always wearing that cost more than most people's homes, right? It's not about making, it's like, that's what I want. That signifies I now have some form of wealth where I can take care of myself in a way that I felt like my people would never be able to take care of myself. And I get it. It is flashy. And you know this too, Chan. People do everything for women. If you were a dude growing up, right? When you get rims, you wasn't getting rims for you. You was getting rims, so people saw your rims, and girls thought that you had money and you was cool, and it draw attention.
As a kid, I did it, but now as a grown man, I don't see the reason of drawing out that attention
that's
to
totally
yourself.
fine. But again, it's the victim blaming. Like you should be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? Like if you want this stuff, get this stuff. You can have this stuff and walk through the meanest hood and sometimes not be touched or even seen.
Hey, bruh, there is no sporting season like the fall, whether you love baseball, football, whatever it is, and you gotta represent your teams. But sometimes you don't wanna pay everything as once. If you use Klarna and you add things into your cart, you can select a payment plan that allows you to spread your payments out over 4 payments without any interest.
Man, you download the Klarna app. You can buy now, pay later, spread out the costs. MLS.com, NHL.com. You use Klarna and you decide when you choose to pay.
What I like the most about it, honestly, is that fans can be fans. You can pay now or pay later over 4 payments, especially with the price of these venues and the tickets. Klarna is the way to go.
Man, you download the Klarna app, you can buy now and pay later. California resident loans made or arranged pursuant to a California financing law license. I was reading a book, and in the book, it said that we should approach life in the manner that we see interactions and think of them firstly as what would I do differently? How would I react? Or how would this affect me if I thought, what would this person say at my funeral? I don't know if you saw the movie A Fault in Our Stars, but in that movie, which everybody cries, in that movie, the kid he has cancer and he's gonna die. And he tells his best friend and his girlfriend, he's like, let's have my funeral today. And he allows them to eulogy, so it would be whatever. He listens to his eulogies from both of them because he's like, when this actually happens, I won't be alive. So he gets to hear what they have to say about him before he actually dies. Because what happens is these people say all of these things after you pass about who you were, your memories, and what you were to them, and you never get a piece of it. It's just other people who knew you as well. If you knew or you made every decision based on what do I want my funeral to be like, how would that change how you behave, or would it at all?
That's deep, RC. I wasn't prepared for that one. But I would say, I guess the short answer is, I have to live my life as I've been living my life. I always tell people, keep your face clean. I try my best to be that way with people. I don't expect how I move on a daily basis. I can't please everyone, but I do know majority of people that I've come across, if they had to speak at my funeral, it would possibly be something positive and something truthful from their heart, nothing made up. I don't know if there's a person in the world that could speak at my funeral and say something bad about me. But then again, I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be here to find out, so it's not even that it's not even that serious. But I just try to do right and treat people right and hopefully leave a lasting impression on them.
That's deep. The question of would you change something in that scenario is something else. What would you say? I'm like you, Fred. I think majority of people would speak glowingly about me. But if every interaction I had, that person could speak at my funeral, I would have to say I would devalue monetary gain because I'm dead now. And I don't want to set my kids up and 401k. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do that, but
Can't take it with you.
you can't take it with you. There's never been a Brinks truck behind a hearse. And that thought of it. So when you asked it, that's the first thing popped in my mind is where I think I just try to, the next business, the next check, the next thing, the next this. And I might lose some personal time. I might lose some fishing trips with Chaz and Chan. I might lose out on some of that. And I want to set them up. I want to be able to buy their first house. They got their 529 C3s. We got all of
I got that too, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have the business side set up, but you're always pushing for more. And when you ask the question, that's the first thing popped in my mind.
Yeah. So when I think about what my funeral would be like, Chan, you mentioned if everybody could speak at your funeral. The first thing is, everybody's not going to speak at your funeral.
You got 3, 2.
Right? Yeah, like everybody you've come into contact with in your life is not going to even be there, right? Those people, some people aren't close enough for you to be there that you've interacted with. I do think, looking back at my life, I would want even those people to have a positive experience with me. I know I try to be a good human. I don't always try to be nice. I don't think we have to live life being nice. I do think we have to live life being as good as we could possibly be to people. If I'm being honest, I would change a lot about my life if I thought about what my funeral would be. I'd be a better husband if I truly thought about it. I'd be less selfish if I truly thought about it. I think I'd give people more grace. I think I wouldn't expect that in these places I'm a certain way, that other people would be that way as well, and hold people accountable for things that don't matter to them as much as they matter to me. I wouldn't hold people accountable for things that they don't know, right? Whether it's just people I run into or people I'm dealing with in everyday life, you can't hold people accountable and make them responsible for taking care or being concerned about things that matter to you if you've never really taught them that they matter to you. Like, I know I've made so many decisions based off of like my wants, my desires, things that make me happy in spaces. And I think as you get older, you realize that temporary fulfillment doesn't keep you whole, full, and content your entire life. You know, I used to run around and be like, man, I don't really care what people think. I'm gonna say and do and be whatever way I want to. And I largely live life like that. But you also adjust those things for personal gain, right? I know how to smile in the right conversations, in the right people's face, even when that's not really the feeling I have, because I can gain something from it. If I had to do it again, I'd be holistically honest, even if it may keep me from getting something I really wanted. Because I do believe that when you give people honesty, you allow them to make decisions based on having a full gamut of information. And people can't be hurt if they make a decision to do something, or they make a decision to be somewhere, or they make a decision to be something with all the information that's supposed to be presented to them. Now those people are in charge of their consequences. When you lie to them, you're in charge of their consequences.
It's a bad phrase though, RC. Is it playing the game? The game of life almost. Not playing the game with people, but
yeah, and
you have to know who you're around, and you have to read the room. There's so many different ways to say it.
But my point is this though. It's okay. I think it's okay to play the game with people who are also playing the game with you. Right? And in those spots that we're moving around where you're trying to elevate life, you're trying to get things, those people in those same rooms are doing the same things with you. But in the places where people aren't, in the places where there's genuine love, in the places where there's genuine care, in the places where there's an actual concern for your well-being, I would go back and be that same way with those people. But if I couldn't, if I wasn't willing to, if I was unable, which I have been in life, even in certain times where I've wanted to be certain things for people and I haven't been capable. If I was in that space and I had an opportunity to go back and just do it all over again, from the smallest interaction to the biggest, I'd be honest with those people. It may hurt them, right? And it may hurt me in the end, because a lot of times if I told a lie or if I deceived in any way, it was because I didn't want to lose that person. I didn't want to lose whatever opportunity. I didn't want to hurt that person, instead of just giving them the space to make their own decision based on what they knew about me. And maybe sometimes I was actually ashamed of who I was. I was ashamed of what I wanted. I was ashamed that what my thought wasn't a societal norm that this person that I actually cared about subscribed to. And I think as I've gotten older, I care less about the perception and more about the integrity.
I just want to say, RC, you can start today. You know, like I always say, it's never too late to pivot. Anybody out there that's considering, you know, the message that we just shared, it's never too late to pivot. We can always find that moment in our lives where we say, all right, I want to be a better person. You know, I want to live my life as if someone's speaking at my funeral. So, but it is not ever too late to pivot. So that's why I want to pivot. These 15 black quarterbacks, man, crazy. Shout out to Willie Thrower, first black quarterback to play in the modern game. You know, shout out to Doug Williams, first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Shout out to Warren Moon, the only black quarterback in the Hall of Fame. Donovan McNabb, Mike Vick, Randall Cunningham.
Yeah.
You know, all these guys, man. It's just amazing that right now 15 black quarterbacks are set to open this NFL season. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it shows how much the game of football has evolved. Yes, the rules have helped, you know, put these black quarterbacks in position to be able to go out there and start, you know, for these teams. Now, they still have to deliver results. We understand that the NFL is a
production-based league.
We understand that the NFL is a production-based business. So it's just good to celebrate this moment. We know not all of them will win on opening day, but man, just to be able to sit in these chairs and have a conversation about the one position where they thought wouldn't ever really have as many blacks, you know, have an influence on the position, man, I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the Doug Williams, the Randall Cunninghams, the, you know, Warren Moons, and all those dudes that are breaking down that stigma, because that's what it was, a stigma of leadership, taking over a team, running the huddle. Black dudes can't do that. Yes, they can. They're just as smart. They're not, they're equal. White quarterbacks, black quarterbacks are equal. And it's funny that it's right down the middle now, because it used to not be that way. They're equal. Can a white boy come off the edge? Yes.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is great, and Nick Bosa's great. Is Trent Williams just as good as the best white tackle out there? We just had Jason Kelsey on the show. There's great white centers, there's great black centers. The stigma of that position was what they did to us for years, what they did to black people for years. You lead the team, you're running the huddle, you're doing
Too
that.
athletic.
Yeah. And we can do it the same way as we can play all these other positions. We talking about Ricky. Ricky's a hell of a receiver. Wes Welker's a hell of a receiver. I could bring up white receivers all day.
We had Cooper Kupp on the show.
Cooper Kupp's a monster at receiver. You can't put, and I love it now that you don't need to put a race on a position on any sport. An athlete's gonna be an athlete, and I think that's what we're coming to. So half the league, quarterbacks being black and half of them being white, or Marcus Mariota, Tua Tagovailoa, what the hell, Hawaiian, Samoan, whatever the hell they are. Bro, if you can run a huddle and you can throw that bitch, let them play quarterback, and that's what I think we're getting to, and that's why I love what these numbers are right now.
Yeah, I think it's super dope that, 15 of the starting quarterbacks are black. And I know the conversation's going to go to, then why do you keep pointing it out, right? You point it out because of history. And I think now you get to point it out as a positive. Fred mentioned some of, Willie Thrower, who's the first quarterback. He's only lasted 2 games. There's Marlon Briscoe, who started for the Denver Broncos, Joe Gilliam, and then you think of what it felt like in the early 80s when Doug Williams won a Super Bowl. That second quarter, that was so fascinating and phenomenal. Looking at my father cry because he knew Doug personally and seeing what it meant to him. I did grow up in an age where Randall Cunningham was my favorite quarterback. And then we got to see Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick, and now the progression to where the best quarterback in the world is biracial, which is seen as black in this country, and Patrick Mahomes. And one of his largest adversaries or nemesis or opposition is Lamar Jackson, who's a 2-time MVP winner, who is so different from what we were taught looks like leadership in that position. And so I do think, though, you have to commend the John Harbaughs, the Ozzie Newsomes, for getting behind a guy like Lamar and saying, you don't have to change. We'll build this around you from off the field to on the field. Yeah. I think the way the game has progressed, and I don't think we talk about it enough, the quarterback of America's team is a black man, and Dak Prescott. Yep. The significance of that. And so I do love that now these young quarterbacks, these young black men, are seen as faces of franchises, are seen as intelligent enough to be leaders, are seen as responsible and accountable enough that I can not only give you the money that represents what it is to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but I believe you can be responsible enough with the life that comes along with that money, with that spotlight, to lead our organization. And I think the biggest piece of this is Thursday night, we had the kickoff game of the season, and it was Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. On Friday night in Brazil, you're going to have a standalone game that represents this league internationally with Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts. The first 2 games of the season, which are showcases for the NFL, have 2 starting quarterbacks that are black. 2 years ago, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes met in the Super Bowl, and it was the first time 2 black starting quarterbacks met. And I do think we are getting to a point where we won't have to have this conversation in the sense of shock, awe, and achievement. And we will just say, it's just Patrick Mahomes. It's just Lamar Jackson. It's just Jalen Hurts. And I think that's a win for our society. It's a win for the NFL, but it's certainly a win for our community and our culture that we have gotten to this point.
You're just quarterbacks.
Yep.
They're not black and white quarterbacks. They're just quarterbacks.
Chan, I have one last question because we're about to end. Here I am on social media, Chan. You know me, I'm bored, I'm surfing. And it was like a tremendous moment. I think it's always beautiful when a pastor finds love. When the head of the church have his first lady, now she's gonna wear the big hat, sit on the front row, and say, preach, preacher. He proposes to this woman in the church during a ceremony.
That's beautiful.
Unfortunately, Chan, the ceremony was the death of her husband.
What happened?
So it's the funeral. The wife is at the funeral. The husband is in the casket. And the pastor is on his knee proposing to this lady, and everybody's clapping.
He was already hitting her. He was already at the funeral that he's at in his church.
He's leading the funeral. He's the pastor.
He's the one and proposes to the widow.
Yes. She damn near ain't a widow yet, Chan.
His meat might still be hard. He's dead in the casket?
Yeah.
Man, and he proposed right there too. Yeah, man, he was hitting that lady. I know what goes on at the church. There's some great pastors out there, but there's some guys that have control of large congregations.
Of his flock?
And he, and they take advantage of their flock. That at the man's right there.
Yep.
I'm
Chan,
proposing to your wife while your husband's sitting in there.
Her women parts ain't even had time to adjust.
They still warm. And
God made him do it. It was love. What?
Fred, that's love.
Bro,
A pastor gonna always say, the Lord gave me a vision, and he had thought about it last night, and I can't miss this moment. She needs love. I need to make sure there's not a moment that doesn't go by where she's not feeling the love. So I'm gonna jump out there before the next man jump out there, and what better time than now while this guy's body is still thawing out, excuse me.
Freddie T, I
And he
don't care.
jumped out
Freddie
there.
T, if you...
But he gonna always blame it on the man upstairs.
There's a, first off, that ain't God. God ain't tell you to propose to that woman at that man's funeral. That's not how God
waited.
works.
You
And you keep
could've waited.
saying he jumped out there. No, he had been jumping in there.
Yeah,
he had been jumping inside of that woman, and he was tired of living
So
in
he
sin.
coulda waited.
And he thought to himself, this is my chance. I no longer have to have an affair. It no longer has to be a church scandal. This could be my first lady. But ain't nobody in that church stupid enough to believe that on his knees that night when he was writing that man's eulogy, and you know at every Baptist church what they say, it's time for you to come to the God, right? It's time for you to let Willie's death be a sign to you that it is time.
Come on to the Lord.
So this is what I know as we end the show. That man's ending is not glorious. It was not a happy ending for that young man, but it's a happy start to the season, and we are done.
You think when I die, I can tell him to give me an erection in the casket?
Yeah, I mean, God can perform miracles.
Trust the process.